So when we look at this, we even watch when he goes into the superiority stance, not quite sure what to do with your hands when you know somebody is reading every movement that you make. So when he put his hands behind his back, that's a superiority gesture. It's very subtle to change that to a submissive gesture.
What's the submissive gesture?
Your hands just a little higher than what you have them.
Oh.
The same thing with control or fear. This is more relaxed like this. Very subtle, a person's shoulders and the way you think. Thoughts arouse feelings, feelings arouse emotions. Emotions are expressed in the organs and the muscles and tissue of the body. So if you think a certain way, your body kind of draws to it. Someone who's depressed, for instance, what do? Just like a plant, you just kind of fold up. But you can also swell up. So if his shoulders are like this, you kind of like water running off a duck's back. However, a very subtle movement, the shoulders square, that's control. If they come up any more than that, that's fear. So just little movements that you read on someone that kind of tells you who that person is, so that I can begin to speak to him below his level of awareness. I'm more visual. It's really nice when you're talking to somebody that's visual. I don't have to change. But when I start talking with someone and ask, hey, how's it going? How's the weather? How was the drive over here? I'm paying attention to when their breathing shifts, the way their eyes move, the way their shoulders go back and forth, and I'm going to start speaking to that. Now, if you were selling a product, the more I can get you to think like I'm thinking, the more I can help make a decision for you. You see what I mean? So if we look at the angle of his feet, he's very focused in what he does. People, your feet point the direction that you go. When people's feet point out like this, your brain, it's like driving a car down the road and the wind blowing. It has to compensate for the wind. So if your feet are pointed about like this, that's more physical or focused. But you get someone who's pointed in, or one foot's pointed in, they have a tendency to be more emotional, which has a tendency to, people like that are usually introverts. If they point out like this, they're more physical, but they're scattered because you want to follow your toes. So you go like this, and then you go like that. But what happens is after a while, because it's slowly, because of being hurt. Now, this is you got to use some common sense. If somebody was in an accident and they're limping, but most of the time you just grew and your body just kind of formed, and you think, well, that's the way I am. It's because you think a certain way, and it pulls your body a certain way. Just like some people lean back. I got Milton for that a little early. He straightened that up today. You learned something there a little bit earlier. But when I first met him and he came up with John, a lot of times when he was standing, he'd stand like this. And there's a line that goes up, like right up through here. If you deviate from that line from becoming rigid or relaxed or forward or back, this is I'm moving head on into life. I'm withdrawing from what's taking place. You move back from that line. Remember me saying something like that to you?
Yeah.
So when he began to make compensations on it. So he's very focused. He's physical. He's leaning the opposite way this time, more forward, which is more of a standing ready position. Ready means if I lean forward enough, I'm either going to fall on my face or I got to put the next foot out, as opposed to leaning back and withdrawing. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Insofar as the shoulder positioning for judging whether someone's being, overly or whatever, how do you know where their shoulders are normally to tell whether they're pronounced or withdrawn?
Well, it can start out little subtle things that you watch for, like an expression on someone's face. If someone's under a lot of stress, if it's a right brain thing, the left side of their face will be drawn or tense. And that's a creative side of them. If it's more the left brain side, if it has to do with the left brain side of their face, then the right side will be more tense. So you look for little subtle pulls or what I call stress lines in the face. The same with the body. If one shoulder's dropped down, it's going to cause something else to take place. It's usually a combination of things. If you look at someone, again, that's a protective mode. Just like you'll see a lot of, I call it the street of sorrow down here in Vegas. You see these old guys down there bent over, their arms out like that. They're still, it's like, it's that control thing, bounce it off of here. Sorry about that, John. But you bounce it off here, but after they get old and time starts wearing down on them, they still walk like this. You've seen a lot of people like that. When they're younger with their shoulders like this, usually their girlfriends, of course I'm seeing this change a little bit more, their shoulders will be forward. That protects the heart, that protects the feelings. So when you ask, how do you tell, if we watch this shoulder here is dropped just a little more than this one here. What does that do? It throws the head out a little bit, which could mean a couple of things. Was he in an accident? Did he have a spine problem? That sort of thing. That's why you don't want to read just one thing. You want to do what we're doing here tonight, and that's read a cluster of gestures. And that's what we did with Debbie. That's what we're doing here. We're reading little nuances. And that lets you know who that person really is. And you can speak to that. Did I answer your question?
For the most part, yes.
What part didn't I?
Well, the fact that I don't remember everything, you know, as far as the facial expression. I mean, yes, it's a cluster of things, but you can't just, like I was trying to judge by looking at someone's shoulders, how they were feeling and whether they were, you know, like I said, defensive or protective or withdrawn. But you have to learn to read the face and the movement and the body language and so on. So you have to learn the whole thing, which is, I guess, the reason why you're making this video.
You got it. Well, we're going to be making several of them. This is like learning another language. This is one of those things when someone walks up to you, to be able to shake hands with them, hear their name, pay attention to their skin, the texture of their hair. He's got thick hair, but it's a lot of hair. But you have any questions?
I think you got it pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just so folks know, I've had a serious spinal injury when I was a child, so it's been with me the whole time. So I have compensated for it physically by trying to do things for myself to straighten myself out. Yoga and you know, back stretches, inversion tables, I mean, all kinds of things. But the pain is still there. You know.
And what Milton says, you know, he compensated for the injury. Well, if you've had your dreams crushed, if you've been abused, if you got a broken heart, you compensate for it. And when you compensate for it, you'll kind of fold up, or you'll go the opposite way. You become more grandiose. So we compensate for pain in our life the same as emotional pain, the same as you do physical pain. So did I hit that pretty close?
Very. Absolutely.
Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Okay.